to WION Live Broadcast. I'm Ollie Barrett, live from London, and these are the top headlines of the hour. In breaking news, here in the UK, the Metropolitan Police has concluded its Partygate investigation into Downing Street gatherings. It issues 126 fixed penalty notices in total. Boris Johnson has not received another one. More than 42 million UK adults are at risk of becoming obese by the year 2040, according to a new study, making them more susceptible to cancer. The UK government slaps fresh sanctions on Russian airlines. It's a move that will prevent Russia's Aeroflot cashing in on around $62 million in landing slots. North Korea is poised to conduct a nuclear test, a South Korean lawmaker says, with the United States warning it could come as President Joe Biden visits Seoul later this week. Portugal detects more than 40 suspected cases of monkeypox, a viral infection rarely seen in Europe. Canada also reports dozens of suspected cases, while the US confirms the infection in a traveller from Canada. More than 500,000 people have fled their homes in India's northeastern state of Assam to escape heavy floods triggered by pre-monsoon rains that drowned 7 people. And we will start with that breaking news here in the UK and the investigation into lockdown-breaking parties in Downing Street and around Whitehall has concluded. Police have in total made 126 referrals for fines relating to the so-called Partygate scandal. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is not among those receiving a fine in the latest batch. Boris Johnson, his wife Carrie and Chancellor Rishi Sunak had been issued with one fixed penalty each over a birthday gathering in Downing Street. And we can go to our correspondent Laura Makin-Isherwood, who's joining us live now from London. Laura, what are police telling us first of all as that investigation wraps up?
Well, they have confirmed that investigation called Operation Hillman has now closed. They've said that 126 people in total have been fined, 53 men, 73 women, for breaching COVID-19 guidelines across various points where lockdown restrictions were in place. They looked at 8 key dates ranging from May 2020 to April 2021. And the Met Police say that 28 people have been issued with fines or 2 or more fines, in this period. So 28 people have been given 2 or more fixed penalty notices. They've said that they had 12 detectives on the case. They were spending a lot of time looking at questionnaires that were handed in by people suspected of perhaps breaking lockdown rules, examining the details that were given there, looking at CCTV images, door logs, emails, really being thorough in trying to ensure that they were getting to the crux of the issue here, trying to find if people had indeed broken those lockdown rules. And they say that they believe that this was necessary because while they wouldn't normally look at historical allegations of this nature, they believed that there was evidence to suggest that those that had been accused of breaking those rules should have known better, should have known essentially that that they were breaking those. So now they've said they have issued all of those fines, and that investigation now has been closed.
OK, and what about Boris Johnson? Because, of course, there was a lot of speculation that he was going to personally receive multiple fines over events at Downing Street over that period of lockdowns, and just one, it appears now. So any reaction from Downing Street?
Well, the Prime Minister's spokesperson has said that the Prime Minister will not be receiving any further fines. Police confirming that as well, it seems. As you said, the Prime Minister had been issued one fixed penalty notice before. His wife, Carrie Johnson, also had been the recipient of one fixed penalty notice there related to events that had taken place in Downing Street. But now it seems, according to the Prime Minister's spokesperson, that investigation has been closed with him. They're not expecting any further action from police with regards to both the Prime Minister, also, we believe, Carrie Johnson, the PM's wife, and also Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, as well. So it seems like the government is now confident that that is it in terms of the matter when it comes to those in the top of government. And the police are also saying that they're not going to release the identities of those other people who received those fines. So it seems like it will be up to them to effectively reveal whether they were recipients. But for the Prime Minister, for number 10, it appears that the matter is also closed there.
But not entirely closed, is it? What happens next?
Well, we've also got to hear, of course, from Sue Gray. She's a senior civil servant who was tasked with carrying out an investigation of her own, if you like, writing a report into the events that had taken place inside Downing Street and other buildings in government across lockdown restrictions and those dates. She was basically stopped from publishing that report in full previously because of this ongoing investigation. Now we understand that that full report could be released, could be published within a week or so, so pretty soon. Then that will be made visible to the public, to other people to read, to get more details indeed on what has taken place in Westminster across those periods when many members of the public were kept apart from their loved ones, told to stay at home, stay away from having large gatherings themselves. We understand when that is published, the Prime Minister will update Parliament, so appear in front of MPs, and will be asked, I suppose, to speak a bit more about what went on across that time, to give more detail. So it's likely he could come under a lot of fire then when people are able to read the extent of actions that took place inside government. And as the Met Police have released these rafts of fines across a number of dates, there could be a lot more questions from opposition MPs.
Yeah, and where does the opposition stand on this? Because, of course, Labour's been calling for the Prime Minister to resign since the investigation began into allegations of parties in and around Downing Street. But, of course, Labour's Keir Starmer is still facing his own probe.
Yeah, absolutely. There was fury from opposition members of the government when it did emerge that these parties might have taken place inside Downing Street. Further anger as well levelled at the Prime Minister when he received that first fixed penalty notice, calls for him to resign. The Prime Minister saying the investigation was ongoing, it was a matter for police, but also saying that it was kind of dealt with, that he wasn't going to resign. Today, Labour's Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, has said industrial-scale rule-breaking has taken place at the heart of Boris Johnson's Downing Street. We must now urgently see the Sue Gray report, she says, published in full. It's time for the Prime Minister to stop hiding, she says. But as you mentioned, Labour's leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is also under investigation himself over allegations that he broke lockdown restrictions on a visit to Durham in the northeast of England. Claims there that he had a takeaway curry and beer with members of his staff that was in breach of those COVID restrictions. An investigation is underway. Labour, though, saying that they are adamant they have enough evidence to prove that it was a work event, not a social one. And Sir Keir Starmer has made public his intention to step down as leader of the Labour Party if he is found to have breached those COVID-19 guidelines. So he has made it very clear that if he is issued with a fixed penalty notice, he will stand aside. If he is found not to have breached those allegations, then it will give him, in effect, a little more ammunition to level at the Prime Minister, extra pressure to place on him. But it seems for now, at least, that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson wants to stand firm and remain in number 10. And this investigation is closed and he will want this matter to be brushed over and left behind quite swiftly, I imagine.
Laura, thank you. The British Conservative Party, meanwhile, is under pressure to name the lawmaker who's accused of sexual assault. The unnamed Conservative MP was arrested and then later released on bail. Labour leader Keir Starmer has called on the Conservatives to revoke the accused MP's whip, i.e. to throw him out of the party. Currently, about 15 parliamentarians are under investigation by Parliament's independent watchdog, which examines allegations of bullying, harassment and sexual misconduct. Staying in the UK, new projections have shown that over 42 million adults in Britain will be overweight by 2040. The data has been put forward by Cancer Research UK, which describes the figures as staggering. It's raising concerns that overweight and obese people are at a higher risk for 13 types of cancer. At present, 64% of adults are overweight or obese, and the figures are climbing each year. Just last week, the government delayed measures to tackle unhealthy eating for 12 months, citing unprecedented squeezes on living standards. A TV junk food advertisement has also been put on hold for a year. Turkey is blocking an effort to fast-track Finland and Sweden's NATO applications. It's also reportedly prevented a procedural vote to open accession talks on the same day Finland and Sweden submitted their official applications to join the alliance. Turkey reportedly said it needed time to work through issues related to Finland and Sweden and provided a list of grievances to NATO ambassadors detailing concerns about Kurdish groups, which Turkey considers to be terrorist groups.
You know, Tony, Turkey has been supporting the open door policy of NATO even before this war. But with regards to these possible candidates or already candidate countries, you know, we have also legitimate security concerns that they have been supporting terrorist organizations, and there are also export restrictions on defense products. So we already expressed our concerns, and I had a candid and direct talk with two colleagues, Anne and Pekka, in Berlin. So what I'm trying to say, we understand their security concerns, but Turkey's security concerns should be also met.
Now that's critical because Article 5 of NATO assures the collective defence of NATO countries if a member is attacked, and it only kicks in after a country becomes a fully fledged member of the alliance.
Article 5 only kicks in once all 30 allies have ratified the accession protocols and they become full-fledged members of the alliance. But the United States is prepared to send a very clear message, as are all of our European allies, that we will not tolerate any aggression against Finland or Sweden during this process. And there are practical measures that we can take along those lines that Secretary Austin will coordinate with his counterparts in both Finland and Sweden.
NATO, the United States and other allies, however, all remain optimistic that they can overcome Turkey's objections.
I'm going to say one thing. I got a call months ago from the president of Finland, wanted to come and see me. I saw him. He told me what he was thinking about, and I got a call that both the The leader of Finland and Sweden are coming to see me on Thursday. I think we're going to be okay.
You can convince Turkey to accept their bid?
I think I'm not going to Turkey, but I think we're going to be okay.
Erdogan is facing elections next year, and polls suggest his popularity is waning due to rising inflation and the cost of living crisis. Turkey's opposition has cast doubts on Turkey's role in NATO. And so analysts believe the Nordic expansion is a chance for Erdogan to try and negotiate new terms with NATO and the United States. Many experts believe that Turkey is, in the end, unlikely to veto the Nordic countries, especially in light of Washington's assurances. Moving on to Ukraine, and over 900 Ukrainian soldiers have been taken to a former prison colony in a Russian-controlled part of Donetsk. A pro-Russian separatist leader says more than 1,000 soldiers are still trapped in the Mariupol steel plant.
Russia's defense ministry released footage on Wednesday of what it claims are wounded Ukrainian soldiers from a besieged steel plant in the city of Mariupol. The men appeared to be in hospital beds, and a handful spoke briefly to camera. In the video, one says he had received medical treatment, another that they had been given food. It was not possible to establish if the men were speaking freely. Earlier on Wednesday, Moscow said nearly 1,000 Ukrainian fighters had surrendered since Monday. The soldiers have been holed up for weeks in the Azovstal steelworks as a last stand against Russian forces determined to take over Mariupol. Top commanders of Ukrainian fighters are still inside the plant, according to the leader of pro-Russian separatists in control of the area. Mariupol is the biggest city Russia has captured so far and allows Russian President Vladimir Putin to claim a rare victory in the war. The city of more than 400,000 people lies in ruins, and Ukraine says tens of thousands died under Russian bombardment. Moscow calls its invasion of Ukraine a special military operation designed to demilitarize its neighbour. The West and Kyiv call that a false pretext for invasion. The US on Wednesday became the latest country to reopen its embassy in Kyiv. Canada, Britain and others have also recently resumed embassy operations.
A 21-year-old Russian soldier has pleaded guilty to killing a Ukrainian civilian. He's been accused of killing a 62-year-old man in northeast Ukraine on February the 28th.
Чи ви визнаєте себе винуватим в даному кримінальному правопорушенні? Повністю?
Повністю.
Не відмовляєтесь від дачі показань? Не відмовляєтеся.
If convicted, the Russian soldier may face life imprisonment. There are witnesses to the crime who will be brought to testify in court. One of them is a Russian soldier who was with Shishimarin at the time of the incident. The soldier's weapon will also be examined as part of the probe.
Суд може сприйняти це як пом'якшуючу обставину. Це буде залежати від того, наскільки суд сприйме щирість цього каяття і щирість цих дій.
A Google subsidiary in Russia has filed for bankruptcy. This comes after the unit's bank account was seized.
Google's Russian subsidiary plans to file for bankruptcy. The US tech firm said Wednesday that Russian authorities had seized the unit's bank account. Alphabet's Google has been under pressure in Russia for months as Moscow wanted it to delete content it viewed as illegal. It was also criticised in the country for restricting access to some Russian media on YouTube. The Kremlin has so far stopped short of blocking access to its platforms. Google said that by seizing its bank account, authorities had made it impossible for its Russian office to function. It also published a notice of the unit's intention to file for bankruptcy. Google has stopped the majority of its commercial operations in Russia since February. Western countries have left the country en masse since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, which it calls a special military operation.
Israel will hold a large-scale military drill simulating a widespread strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The drill will be the country's largest military exercise in decades. The US will participate, supporting the Israeli Air Force with mid-air refueler tankers in a message of unity against Iran. Our correspondent Jodie Cohen reports.
The collaboration between Israel and the US is expected to take place over the Mediterranean Sea at the end of May as part of Israel's month-long Chariots of Fire exercise. This drill involves nearly all units of the Israel Defense Forces. The Air Force will simulate an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, while the army trains to defend Israel against Iranian-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. US Central Command Chief Michael Kurilla was welcomed in Israel to oversee the exercise. Speaking at Reichman University on Tuesday, Gantz warned that Iran is just a few weeks away from having enough fissile material for a bomb and is working to install 1,000 advanced centrifuges with which to enrich uranium.
Iran is making an effort to complete the manufacturing and installation of 1,000 additional advanced IR-6 centrifuges in its nuclear facilities, including new facilities being built at underground sites abutting Natanz.
I'm standing by the Azrieli Towers in Tel Aviv, which is on Iran's published list of civilian targets in Israel. Now, as part of the Chariots of Fire drill, Israel has reportedly expanded its list of Iranian military targets by 400% using artificial intelligence. The drill will simulate a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. A real strike wouldn't be easy, as the facilities are deep underground and Tehran's air defenses are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Israel would also have to contend with retaliation, both from Iran and its proxies throughout West Asia. And while the US would prefer to revive the stalled nuclear deal, its participation in the deal is a signal to Iran that time is running out. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.
The life story of the Ukrainian president is out in comic book form. An American comic production house has printed Volodymyr Zelensky's journey from a comic artist to a wartime leader. We'll leave you with that story. I'm Ollie Barrett. I'll be back at the same time tomorrow from London. Thanks for watching.
This is right, Arab.